2.0 with Sue the Zwart from Talk Turf. She will be covering pick the turf variety suited to your climate and your budget, how the lack of cultural practices affect your playing surface, how maintenance affects bunker playability, green speed, and course setup. As I enjoy. Thanks, Sue.
Thanks so much, Janita. Good morning, everybody. I hope you enjoy this. Sorry, Janita and I had our lines crossed there, but you'll see we're going to move on to how to produce your playing surface. But if anybody is interested in going back to the last webinar we did, I'll gladly redo that. Yeah, so feel free to ask questions at any point. Janita will just stop me and I will deal with them as they come along. Okay, so I like to use a simple approach, a simple technical approach. Let's put it that way. Let's remove the guesswork and get your superintendent and assistants and crew onto the golf course because they can't produce their ultimate playing surface from the office or writing hundreds of reports. I assure you they need time on grass. And then let's let the best turf grower grow turf. I really feel quite strongly about that. So within my business, I spend most of my time on technical work and growing grass, and other people with good admin skills do the admin. So you always start at ground level. I like lab serve. When I first came back to South Africa in '96, I used to send results to LabServe and the US, and these results have been fantastic, world-class lab. So we use them for all our clients throughout the country. And then we're very spoiled to have an hematologist, Dr. Mika Daniel. She's from Belgium. Mika and I work closely together for many years, at least 15 years. We actually presented a paper together on nematodes in Japan. Well, she presented the paper on our behalf on nematodes, and that was a lot of results from South Africa. These are necessary tests. You only need to do it once a year because although they're microscopic, the damage is not microscopic. Okay, so rule of thumb, I like to pick 3 greens on a golf course. You can do 2, you can do even 1 if you really jammed, but please don't mix your sand together. Okay, so pick the same green every year to test. Greens do change because we're applying a lot of products to them. At least annually, if you can do twice a year, even 1 green twice a year, that's awesome. Okay, then your tees, you know, tees are also a high profile surface. So just test 1 tee a year just to give us an indication of where to, of how to run the nutrition. And the same with fairways. I find fairways do vary. So you probably need 1 off the front 9, 1 off the back 9. Once again, don't go and grab soils all over the golf course and mix it together because that doesn't help us. We actually don't know what to do in that instance. Okay, so the trick to healthy turf, this is what I want to just push through today, is sound nutrition, sound cultural practices, which we covered last time. We're not really going to redo them today. Sound watering management and drainage. You need that oxygen in the root zone. Sustainable pest management, plant growth regulators, and pigments. Okay, so what not to apply? I love going into a little garden center and saying, I've got a patch of lawn, what should I apply? I think typically people's go-to product, not only in South Africa, throughout the world, is 232. Okay, so the 2 stands for your nitrogen, the 3 stands for your phosphate, and the 2 stands for your potassium. Now, what is a grass plant? What is turf like? Turf likes.
Yeah, that would be nice.
So turf. Who's that? Can you mind muting yourselves, guys? So the 3 is your phosphate. okay, you need 50 ppm in the soil. Okay, it's very difficult to leach phosphate. Once you have too much in the soil, it puts everything out of imbalance. And you typically want double the potassium to the nitrogen. So as you can see, you cannot just take a thumb suck at what to apply. Your plant also needs consistent nutrition. You know, you like to know you're going to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Well, so does it. It doesn't want to go fasting and then having a complete binge. So that's not, it's not healthy for us and it's not healthy for them. Okay, so this chart shows, it shows once one element is out of balance. If you just take calcium as an example, sorry, I just want to get my laser pointer here. There we go, sorry. So here, if you take calcium, too much calcium is going to put boron under pressure. Your iron is related to your manganese, your iron is related to your copper, your zinc, your phosphate. So everything is interrelated. So that's why you can't just go and hoy a product out there and hope for the best. It also depends on your pH. The Cape have very low pHs. So once we know what pH we're dealing with, we know what element is not available to the plant and we're able to feed that. Joburg can be more neutral, which unless you make some drastic amendments. So yeah, when I see amendments going out, it's those are big decisions and they should be done made properly. Any questions so far on nutrition and what we've discussed?
Not at the moment.
Okay. All right. So this is something I see a lot. I see people waiting for the storm to hit. Let's rather be prepared, guys. We all take our vehicles for a regular service. We don't wait to be stuck on the side of the road. But we tend to approach our golf course maintenance differently. We wait to be stuck on the side of the road or with a major issue. Okay, so regardless of the challenge, you need to be prepared. So we spend a lot of time drawing up timing programs and warning the courses we deal with, what to be aware of when. So right now, we're starting to prepare for microdocium patch. If you're in the Western Cape, you need to get your applications down. Otherwise, in July, you will have big patches all over your greens. So that's just an example. So, you know, these things are worth paying attention to. Same thing with your insects. There's a lot of insect damage that takes place. If you're able to control it, in the egg and larva stage, your infestation is far less than trying to do it when you see the adults. And when you see the adults,
Sorry,
they're laying eggs.
Guys, will you please mute yourself? Sorry, sir.
No problem. So, all right, so that is really critical. It's much cheaper and easier to control disease, insects, weeds before you see them with the eye. Okay, then we're going to move into your best management practices. So every morning, we try and reduce dew on the plank surface because dew carries rich water called exudates, which really triggers disease. So dew removal through mowing, whipping, not watering. Okay, if you want algae, then you just pop on the sprinklers to remove dew. That is not what we do. So dew removal, really critical. Okay, so I love this. This is what I love to see on a golf course. Either you're mowing, typically we're all mowing every morning, so you don't need to remove the dew. This guy is actually removing the sand on the green from the bunkers. The other guy is taking the moisture reading. he flags any areas that need water, the hose pipes following him, and he immediately applies water in the flagged areas. Okay, so this is probably the most important thing you will do every morning, because in the dew, your superintendent will see the disease developing. By the time you see it with the eye, I'll show you a bit later. You're not waiting to stress out your plant and for your roots to die back. You're immediately looking for hot spots and watering those before the day starts. And then your general water, a few minutes in the morning would have gone out early. Must go early because your stomata are open. And remember, this is how your plant works. It needs to get in the water to be able to cool itself down to transpire. So I find we can really improve in this area. So just on that, in summer, it's worth your teams, if you're in a hot climate, 2 people coming in early for this process, because the earlier the better. So for me, it's 5 o'clock, 7 days a week in summer. Okay, so this is what we were discussing earlier. Your golf course crew need to be on the golf course. So if your superintendent is jammed in meetings and preparing for meetings and writing reports, I understand it's a necessary evil, but let's not take them away from these critical checks. They have to the stuff has to happen. Because what I find, I can often be on a golf course and I'm going around with the superintendent and I can see this green has not been watered today. There's very obvious stress on it. The hot spots have not been done, but they're taking pogo readings. It's going back to the computer and then they're going to water. Well, by that time, your damage is done. So I'm not a fan of that system. You've got to get out early or do your pogo readings the night before. Know what you're dealing with. So I'm all for technology, but it's got to work for the plant. Okay, so you want to reduce your dew night period. So that's why we don't water a green early evening. Obviously, our irrigation cycles, you try and make them as short as you possibly can, but we've got a lot of area to water. So you'll start with your healthy areas on the fairways, tees that are open, not prone to disease. You're not going to go and start at and you can schedule that irrigation. I think I also see that. I'm sure lots of us see that, where you playing golf and the first irrigation to come on is 9 and 18. Well, guys, let's make it 1 and 10. Let's not wet the golfers. Okay, so use your weather data. There's a lot of good weather data out there, even off your phone, just the week ahead, the disease models, your programs. We take a lot of time putting these together, and your preventative applications to be prepared for what's to come in your week ahead. Things are changing constantly, and I'm going to try and show you what I mean by this. Okay, so this was on the 17th of March. This is the same. So this is the ET for Rand Park. So your evapotranspiration. So how much water is lost through the leaf. And this is how you plan your irrigation. Please make sure that you do plan your irrigation this way. Rule of thumb is we'd apply 75% of ET. Once again, you're going to take into account your weather forecast. If you've got rain coming, you're not going to apply this. If you've got heat coming, you may decide to apply your full ET, or just you're going to plan. So Rand Park had an ET of 3.6 mils. The same week for the past 10 years had an average of 4.5 mils. So it does change. Ehrenvale were on 5 mils. Their historic was 4.2, and DCC was on 4 mils. So it's really important. If you go if we, in a windy period, you'll see some of our Western Cape clubs running up to 9 mils. So, and it's difficult to know how much water to put down. You know, you don't want to be too wet, you don't want to be too dry, so it's tricky. Okay, so thankfully, Jim Kearns from NC State has put this incredible dollar spot model together, which is a great guideline. If you're above 20%, you're at very high risk. So typically from 15%, we'll be applying preventative fungicides. And as you can see, for most of the year, and this is actually in our booklet, so you can use this as a guide. We've done numerous regions in our booklet. Okay, so this is on the app that shows Rand Park on this same day was 21%, so that they are at risk. They need to be covered. But Erin Vale, anything above 20%, you're at high risk. So Erin Vale was at 37%, Durban Country Club 63%. So you really, really need to stay onto it. Instead of spraying every 10 days, you might be pulling that, or 14 days, you might be pulling that down to 7, and making sure that your dew is off the green, making sure your plant's not hungry, because you know dollar spot is a low nitrogen disease. So that's why it's really important to have all this. Okay, then this is anthracnose. So anthracnose is typical from October. We start our preventatives, but your high risk time is December, January, February. You really need to be aware of it, especially dry, hot weather. So there, Rand Park was at 1. We're not concerned if it's below 2, but your maximum on this model is 4. So Erin Vale and Durban Country Club, very high risk. So yeah, don't wait for those dots to arrive on the green, guys, because that is very late in the disease cycle. This is just an idea of how we time. You know, I'm constantly working on this, trying to get the best possible solution for the diseases typical at that particular time. And it will vary from club to club, or region to region particularly. Any questions on the disease stuff? Okay, we've had this app Turf Advisor, which is what I've been showing you. The US and Australia are transitioning to these sensors, SPIO, which I'm working hard to get to South Africa, because I find every club, we're all looking at our own solution, but this will be linked to a lot of good models and disease and data. So yeah, I really hope, I think I'll push hard. I'm in meetings again on Tuesday trying to get this through. So what do we mean by sustainable pest management? Sustainable pest management means the right product at the right time, and at the sprayed correctly as well. So we use a product, Mancozeb. It's a great product. 4 kgs per hectare will give you some control of dollar spot, will give you some preventative control of a bit of Pythium control. But the guys started spraying it at 20 kgs per hectare, and you just wiping out every bee. I've literally walked onto greens with dead bees. So yeah, so we had the chemistry ban last year, which was fantastic. We didn't lose one of our products, because a lot of those products are wiping out your beneficial insects, microbes. So just be aware of what you're spraying, when you're spraying it, how you're spraying it, because it's not all bad, but it's how you use it. So I think for me, that's critical. And I've sat on a global board where with Europe, thinking their chemistry ban is so good, they're actually doing so much damage because they're killing the soil microbes and throwing the soil into complete imbalance by trying to use ferrous sulfate to control disease. It's an absolute disaster. And it's one that continues. But fortunately, we have a lot of parties on the same page, and we are in a neutral, balanced space, which is where we want to be. But let's continue to operate together. Okay, so when you see the disease on the plant, you're here in this blistering eradicant stage. So here at your preventative stage, you can go at low rates, you can get your product into the soil. There's nothing that's going to wipe out a beneficial insect on the surface. So this is a good place to be. In your curative phase, you've already lost here. You no longer have Daconal and Heritage. They're not going to work for you there. And then in your eradicant phase, Daconal will no longer be working for you. So your options are less. So instead of going here, so say subdue max, Pythium root rot, your preventative rate is 1.7 liters a hectare. Your curative rate is 3.4 liters per hectare. Instead of applying every 21 days, you're going to be applying every 10 to 14 days. So those are just, you know, where we can improve what we do. Any questions? That's good. Okay, large patch. So this is also known as cuckoo patch on South Africa. See, people seem to be confused about this disease. It's quite simple. It's spread by dead or alive plant material. The best time to treat it is autumn. So we can get really good control of it. It will hang around for 3 years, but if you take the time to spray it for the 3 years, you really will improve your circumstance. So I would suggest doing teas and then just do your infected areas and where they are. I mean, you know where they are. This comes up every spring. It's throughout the country. If you leave it and you go and holotine, verticut, I've been on a golf course where it has literally spread across 18 holes. You don't want to be there because spraying 2 hectares of your golf course in autumn is fine. Spraying 18 holes in autumn and spring, that becomes a costly exercise. So once again, let's just tackle our problem areas, and then they don't become such an issue. Okay, so autumn is when you want to get it down. It's not how much water you put down, it's how quickly you put it down. And as I try to show here, it can start in these small patches. It almost looks like heat stress. Or like here, and this is the size of the patch in relation to an apple. So initially, you won't see too much turf thinning at this point. But when you get to this point, you're going to see substantial turf thinning, power coming in, and it's just not a good place to be. Any questions on large patch?
No, not now.
Okay. So power, you know, I love power as a green, as a playing surface. So if you choose to have power, it can be a fantastic playing surface if you manage it as power. If you're fighting it in bent greens, I quite understand that. Many of our top courses throughout the world are power greens. I worked the 2004 Open at Shinnecock. Those were beautiful, firm, fast greens, power, but they were maintained as power. But we don't want to encourage power on tees, fairways, semi-rough if we don't want power in our greens. So then if that's your case, it's best, power germinates in April and August. So in March, we like to start our preventative applications, get down pennant magnum, water it into the soil, do a follow-up app to make sure that you catch the window. And then the same for goosegrass in spring. You'll do this. So the way pre-emergence work is they create a barrier, like a physical barrier in the soil. They're very effective. You apply it to moist soil. So typically after a rain, or if you've irrigated the night before, go and apply it, water it in within 24 hours. But if you go and hollow tine or spike through the layer, then you're going to break the layer. So try not to do that. So if you want to encourage POA on your greens, then it's a good time to hollow tine in April and August. If you don't, then reschedule your hollow tining. Because if you do hollow tine in April and August, you will be encouraging POA germination. Okay, so Pythium root rot, this has become quite an issue for numerous clubs in the past few years. But it often comes in. Typically, this disease comes in when you've got high thatch or poor drainage. So the way you can avoid that is by ensuring that you hollow tine and backfill properly with sand into the holes twice a year. So I like to do 12 mils twice a year, or at least an 8 in autumn and a 12 in spring. I'm not a fan of huge tines unless you've got issues on your soil and you're needing to amend it. But this is where I'm seeing a lot of issues coming in. People are pushing rounds, cutting cultural practices, not dusting every 21 days. And then 1, 2, 3 years down the line, oh, boom, we need to close because our greens are a disaster. Well, I can assure you, if you cut your cultural practices, it's just a matter of time. It will catch up with you. So if you, by not hollow tining, there's a study at the University of Florida which shows your infiltration rate will reduce 13% a year. So year one, you'll get away with it, but it just depends on what weather hits you, what the season's going to bring, and it's a tricky business. I don't work with clubs who choose not to do cultural practices because it's just a matter of time. Okay, so your drainage is really important. And this might sound simple, but it's not that simple. You need to ensure that where your green drains out, that the water can actually flow out the green. If you've got a dam next to a green, just check that the pipe draining out your green is not flowing into the dam and not covered by water at points where it's pushing back up into the green. Because remember, your greens profile is 500 mils deep, so although your playing surface is not going to be underwater, your drainage layer could well be. So this is really important. If you do have an issue like this, it's so simple to add a sump pump. Like if you think of Leopard, when we built it, we wanted the greens right down at the water surface. So 15, 16, 9, and 18. All drained below the water surface. They've all got a sump pump, and in 25 years we've replaced one pump, so it's really not a big deal. So your balance of oxygen and water in the root zone is critical. So that's why when Mr. Rupert wanted to, when we did the greens rebuild, he said to me, I want bent greens. I ran some trials. I said to him, look, it's going to be way too risky in a hot, humid climate to plant bent, but I feel we can get it done if we install sub-air, which we did. And we were able to grow bent greens in this crazy Malalang climate without issues running sub-air. Now, the minute you don't run your sub-air in this sort of climate, you're going to run into issues. Okay, and then your nutrition, we've chatted about that, balanced, your preventative fungicide program, and just be aware of what you're applying. So if it's the right product at the right time. There are a lot of agricultural products still out there that the guys want to use. It's not the right formulation. It's not great for the environment. Yeah, so it actually works out cheaper to do the right thing, as I'm sure we all know. Okay, so it's tricky to know what you're dealing with. Pythium, for instance, is a high nitrogen disease. Dollar spot is a low nitrogen disease. So that's why it's important to try and be in the middle on your nutrition. These things can be so confusing. I mean, this is Pythium blight on the left, and this is dollar spot on this side. They're similar size. This one, if you touch it, will be oily. You can see these white fluffy. It's always like white fluffy. This is more like a spider web. You will pick this up in the dew. So you'll see the spider webs in the dew. Often it is just a spider web. And you will, so that's why your dew checks are really, really important. So for me as a superintendent, I would, by the time I got onto the green, I like to see at least one set of footprints ahead of me. Okay, so this is Pythium blight. You can use phosphites to control it. It works really well. And what we do, there have been times that if you're not sure, you could apply the phosphite. If you get control, you know it's Pythium, and because phosphite won't control dull spot. Okay, moving on. Any questions on disease or nutrition or anything we've covered so far? Guys, this is very technical, so sorry. I'm boring you with a lot of good grass stuff, but you know, it's so important for you guys to know this, managing your golf courses. So I know it's probably more than you would like to know or need to know, but I hope you find it interesting. Okay, so PGRs, these are, I'm absolutely passionate about these things. I've worked with them for a long time. You can see this Kiku's got some lacquer disease going here. So what is a PGR? You see this horrible stalky grass? Do you see these nodes? Nodes are where the leaf comes out, and then in between you've got an internode, okay? So a PGR reduces the internode by 50%, okay? So it cuts out that stalky stuff. It pushes your vertical growth sideways. So look at this nice plant. This is important for playability because you want your ball to roll on the tips of the turf. It's important for your tees because you want that density, the increased rooting. It gives you improved color. It just, honestly, like people will say, why is a golf course fairway always different to my lawn? Well, this is the #1 reason. Wet weather, you don't need to go mow. You can just say, I'm not going to mow for a day or two or even a week, because you're just going to cause damage. And then you don't have all these horrible clippings lying around. Because I did an exercise at Borbella Stadium, we mowed. So we had 6 bins. I went and sprayed Primo on the pitch. We remowed and we had exactly half the bins. So it was a fun exercise with our team. And just on that, we were hosting a Bundesliga team, Augsburg, and the groundsman was sent over to work with me. And it was, we had to seed in June, and it was really late. And we had, I think, 5 weeks till the soccer. And the guy came to me and he said, you must apply more nitrogen. You must apply more nitrogen. And as he said it, I twigged, okay, that's absolutely what you can't do, but you can apply Primo, and it was just a game changer. So this is Nomo, a nice tight fairway. This was taken in Joburg last week. One of the clubs have gone on to the Nomo program, and the minute I drove onto the property, I was like, wow, here we go. This is going to be good. Okay, so what PGRs do? improved density, improved rooting, which then leads to reduced water. It's about 20% or actually more reduced water usage. Especially in your drought periods, you'll see the plant is definitely different. You've got better color, it holds on to your stripes longer. Your cuckoo seed head, it doesn't get rid of it, it just makes it shorter, so it's not as visible. And then the nice thing is on a green, I think most clubs in South Africa are spraying PGRs on their greens. Your morning field will have the same speed as the afternoon field. Otherwise, you're going to be losing a foot of speed, which is not fun. And then obviously in your fairways semi-rough, it gives you flexibility with mowing. And a diesel saving, guys. Diesel is way to go. So I use it everywhere. I use it at Kanyamazan Stadium. This just gives you an example of, this is a very high traffic Bermuda Stadium under NOMO. I mean, there's no turf I maintain without this stuff. So I started with the Primo on the trials at Pebble back in 1996. And when I came back to South Africa, we had NOMO, which was fantastic for leopard. And we literally sprayed it wall to wall. Obviously not the greens are always Primo, but tees, semi, fairways, everywhere. And it was hard for me to convince them to use a PGR, but we just sprayed the surrounds actually randomly, and then everybody started saying, what are you doing there that you're not doing on the fairways and everywhere else? And it was an easy sell. Okay, so any questions on PGRs? Are you guys using PGRs? Are you familiar with them? Well, we can chat about it afterwards. I'll finish and then we can stop sharing the screen and have a discussion. Okay, so a few years ago, probably 6-7 years ago, Dr. Vargas, Dr. Dannenberger, a lot of the professors from various universities in the States said to me, Sue, this is going to become your biggest tool. And I was like, what? A pigment, a green paint? They were like, no, it's not a green paint. And it really is not. So I use it in summer. I use it at least once a week. When I'm seeding young grass, I use it every 2-3 days to protect the plant, and it just takes it to the next level. So I think it's a very nice option for teas, but you've got to start before the frost starts is best. We've got clubs like Omea using it in Windhoek. So it just, and you can spray low rates, keep it looking natural. So the advantages are, it's huge benefits against heat, drought, salinity, cold. I mean, your plant health is just so good. So a lot of our clubs are using it because they've realized the increase in chlorophyll, the photosynthesis. So even in low light, you've got really good photosynthesis, the better rooting, you've just got overall better plant health, and like a 27% increase in quality. Well, I've seen it with us with Mbombela. I really love this stuff. And then your uptake on your fungicide retention, which is really important. If you're spraying a foliar, this is a great tool with your foliar mix. But I like on a green to go really low rates, 300 mils a hectare. Some of our clients like to push it right up to 800. So I think 300 to 500 is the way to go. Yeah, so it's good for heat, good for cold. Okay, so just to sum it all up, you want to just focus on your sound nutrition, and you can do that through your testing. Take out the guesswork, your sound cultural practices. So if you're using your PGRs, you're not going to be verticutting too much, but your dusting every 21 days in the growing season is really important, protects the crown from a lot of diseases. Not too much either, because you don't want to create layering, so just a light dusting. Your hollow tining spring and autumn, your solid just a thin little spike, like a 6 mil tine. You won't even see it. Every 21 days. In wet weather, reduce that interval to 14 days. There are times I reduce it to 7 days because you just want oxygen in the root zone and to keep your plant healthy. Okay, so your water management, let's get out early, particularly in hot weather. Let's not just sit out and program what's going to go, because like if you're removing dew with sprinklers and your green doesn't need water, you're going to get algae and moss, and so those things are typically an indicator of overwatering. Or if it's raining a lot, you don't have good drainage, that's also an issue. But you can get through that with spikings, just spike. Your sustainable pest management, try and use registered products, try and use products with a good label, the right product at the right time. PGRs are your game changer. To good quality, use them in your garden and you will see your life is so easy. And then pigments are no longer the new kid on the block, but they certainly do help your turf quality. Thank you, guys. Any questions? I'm going to stop my sharing so we can see each other.
I think we've all got way too many questions.
That's good. Let's go.
Hi, Sue. Neville from Laos in Southeast Asia. I want to ask you a question about fire ants. I had a big problem with fire ants a little time back, and locating the sort of nest was a real problem. Have you got any advice on when you have a plague of fire ants or a problem with it?
Sure. So we fortunately don't have them here, but we do have the termite nests. So what's worked well for us, and I think it would be similar to the fire ant, is so for a termite, you've got to cut the dry grass 2.5 centimeters and then soak that into the product you're going to use, put it out around the nest late afternoon, and they'll take it down. So maybe you can measure the difference in size between a termite and a fire ant and then try that trick. It works very well.
Okay, super. Thanks a lot and great presentation.
Right.
Very
Thank
helpful.
you so much. Thanks,
You're welcome.
Neville.
How's it, Sue, Louis? Very interesting indeed. As you said, one question quickly on the dew, obviously, versus irrigation. Standing at a golf course, and I understand you saying, you've got to try and remove dew before you irrigate. We've got to start irrigating from about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, pretty much to about 7 o'clock the next day to get through the cycle. So there is periods when you are going to have dew on the greens. Obviously, I can see that we do have the algae and everything on the greens, and that's probably the course. I use a TDR also at Stellenbosch. I mean, we do measure it. I mean, is that effect really that big, the dew versus you can't irrigate it if there's dew on the green?
No, sorry, Louis, maybe I wasn't clear. So if you need to irrigate 100%, but what happens sometimes is the guys have irrigated their greens at say 5 or 4 o'clock in the morning, because you try and do it as late as possible. Then they come in later and they maybe are not going to mow for some reason, or they just decide to run a cycle of water to take off that dew. So you don't want to do that. So no, watering to remove dew is no problem if your area needs water. And in a fair way we get away with it. We're not that prone to diseases, so it's no problem. And you guys with your wind, you're not going to have major dew issues. But it's like particularly now in winter, I see the clubs. So you spray. What we do is we add Complement Super 180 mils a hectare to our foliar sprays. That will break the dew. So yeah, you just don't want to leave dew lying on a green until like 9, 10 in the morning until you get there, if you can help it.
Okay, I know we cut luckily before that. And then just the last one from my side is just on this large patch. Do you have a thing that causes it or promotes it? Obviously, it pops up in the Western Cape often, and now you said it's everywhere, and you can spray for it. But is there something that's a promoter of it or a cause for it, or is it just purely because of thatch?
Yeah, so it is driven primarily, it is driven by thatch, but it is a disease. So it's rhizoctonia. So it's part of your brown patch family, and it's also part of this disease that you see on your greens, the whitea patch, the brown ring patch. I don't know if you're familiar with that. So it's the rhizoctonia family has a lot of diseases, and large patch is one of them. But
Thank you.
your key time is autumn.
So you've got to spray it now.
Yeah, just where it is. You don't need to go and spray everything. Just contain it.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It's very nice, very informative.
Thank you, Louis. Nice to have you. Okay, who's got another question? Anybody battle with Pythium root rot or any of these other nasties?
Hi, Sue. Dwayne here from Thailand. I just want to ask a question about new greens. I know you guys are on a different topic about it. New greens were planted or grown just before October last year. Any advice or ideas that trying to get the greens a little bit more level, because they're rolling, top dressing, low rolling, top dressing, but it doesn't seem to get that true effect as yet. What's the timing on that?
Yeah, Dwayne, so ideally the timing on that is in your growing period, in your first 3 months. But look, I mean, we often are sitting with this later. So a few things on your new greens: hollow tine immediately from year 1. People often leave this, which then causes serious issues. But you only need to hollow tine in that top 1/2 inch where, don't go and remove all your new sand you've just spent money on. So just do most of the hollow tiners you can set to that. And then with your dusting, just make sure that it's consistent. But this seems like more of a floating planting. Did you seed or sprig?
It was seeded. It was, then it spread. I don't know. I wasn't at the growing stage. That
okay, no problem. So what we do, what I like to do is you take a 2-meter plank, and then you screed the uneven areas as you would a floor. So literally start with a 2-meter plank, but remember your grass has got to stick out. So it's tricky on a green because you can't put a lot of sand at a time, but you can do it virtually daily. So it's a little bit of sand. You'll then reduce to a 1-meter plank. So we would normally have 3 planks, a 2, a 1.5 meter plank. And depending on, how uneven or how bad it is, you'll decide which plank size you'll use. And you'll very quickly do it. You'll very quickly get your levels, but it is a tedious process. So you can do the same thing on a tee, on a fairway, anywhere.
Are you dragging the plank behind?
No. This is by hand. Jy gooi 'n bietjie sand waar hy laag is, and you use your plank. No machine. Listen, there's no machine that's going to sort out your levels on your greens.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Great. Yeah, give me a shout if when you're doing it. If you have any questions, give me a shout.
Will do.
Okay. Anybody going to use a PGR now? Going to send you some for your garden, guys. Just if you get a chance, please go to CCJ. I don't know if you've been to CCJ lately. It was so awesome for me to see how they've turned that golf course around. So just go and look at those fairways when you're in Joburg. They've only done a few applications, so but you'll see it will keep improving.
Bless you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi,
Sorry,
Sister.
it's Sita from Zimbabwe Country Club. Sorry, I'm not actually very best when it comes to grass, so I want to ask a few questions. So with the kukui grass, we normally call it foreign grass, is that right? Foreign grass. What makes the foreign grass encroach so quickly to the fairways and greens? If you
So you're a Bermuda golf course, right? And you've got Kikuyu encroaching, is that correct?
Yes. So, for example, when I always go around the course and especially on the tee box and greens, when I walk around, I always see the foreign grass encroaching to the greens. And if I come first week and I come back the next week, I see it's encroaching quickly. And we always move it by hands. What did make it so the foreign grass to encroach so quickly to the greens? It doesn't really go other directions, but it only go where there's the greens and tees.
Yeah, Sitla, Kikuyu loves water. So if it is Kikuyu we're talking about, it loves water. So it moves towards water. And typically your greens are a sand base. So they're going to have more water in that area. In Natal, all of us also really battle with that paspalum, which is a horrible grass. But if it's Kikuyu in Bermuda, we've got Monument. I'm fighting hard to bring Monument to this market. So if you want to grow Kikuyu, then you don't need it. But if you're trying to get rid of Kikuyu, your only option is really to dab it with Fusilade, which is not that practical around a green. So yeah, it's tricky.
Geez, all right. And then secondly, please help me on this one because other day I was playing on the golf. I was playing golf, and then I saw. I don't know if that's a disease. I saw something like a mushroom, the white. It's like a white in color, and then I had to pull that out with the divot tool. So I just don't understand what was that for? Why that actually happened? How did it come up from the green?
Yeah, so that would be fairy ring, which is it is a very common disease. It's still one of the top 6 diseases in the USA as well. So it's a low nitrogen disease. Typically, you would if you saw it feed, it happens on fairways. The greens, it's not always a low nitrogen disease because you do get a few different strains. But we found it's no point in spraying the whole area with fairy ring. You take a garden fork and you spike the ring, and then you literally spray inside that ring, and you control it quite quickly. It's also a high organic. It's also a high organic disease. So to give you an example, on Bombela Stadium, I changed my divot mix to just something we found at Builder's Warehouse, and we just had fairy ring everywhere. So yeah, it can come in an organic as well.
Thank you very much.
A pleasure, Sitla. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, nice to have people from all over the world. Who else has got a question? Must be somebody. We all learn from each other's questions, so we appreciate you asking them.
Luke Kelly's got a question. Luke, you can just unmute yourself, please.
Yeah. Hello, Sue.
Hi, Luke.
just a quick one. Your view on PGRs and rider on driving range tee boxes.
Yeah, so the PGRs will be really good, but start early. So don't start your PGR at the start of winter. That's on a driving range tee box. So, but if you can start, wait in spring for your tee to be nice and tight, and the minute it's tight, then 100% hop in, because it actually reduces your divots. Because but you can't go and spray a tee that's now full of divots, but it does, you will still get divot closure because of the sideways pushing. The rider is just a great tool through winter because it's going to push your plant health and keep your tee healthier. But I wouldn't spray a PGR on a tee in winter. So typically, like even now, going into autumn, you want to push your height of cut up on your tee and your green, if it's a Bermuda green. So you want to go up on your height of cut. You can keep your PGRs in until your soil temperature hits like 10 degrees and then pull out of them.
Cool.
So I mean, people are using them in colder weather, but I don't like that. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Michael also has a question. Michael, will you just unmute yourself, please?
Morning, Sue. Hope you're well. How are you doing?
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, good view. Sue, just a question. We're busy at Glendower at the moment, busy doing a bunker renovation here. The designer is coming through in the next couple of weeks, the original bunker and green designer, Sean Quinn. And he's suggesting a few changes which are gonna slow the process down a little bit in terms of what he wants to do is obviously reshape the bunkers and marginalize them slightly, make them slightly smaller. Problem with that is obviously there's a lot of sod work that needs to be done, and especially now moving into winter. The scarring at CCJ took a long time to get sorted out after their bunker renovation with Kolkata. When is it rule of thumb that we don't even consider sodding? Obviously, sod, Kikuyu doesn't die, it gets dormant, but obviously if it's coming out of a turf farm and you're laying it down in a period of dormancy, it's obviously demands a lot of water and a lot of care. When should we say no more to sod work in terms of season?
Sure, Mike. I would say end of April. You could probably push into May, but the trick is get your turf farm now to spray PGRs now, and they can gladly contact me. So if they're spraying PGRs, sorry, I told you my duck would go off. So yeah, spray PGRs, even spray rider on that turf, and then once you sod it, you can't spray rider around your bunker. And if you have any level area, if you're able to hollow tine it or just spike it, it's tricky. If you can hollow tine
the level areas, because we create the bunkers that the bunker surrounds can all be cut with a fairway or a rough mower. So in terms of the level areas, we don't grass down bunker faces. So we can get to do that. And obviously I've got Norman Pryor with me from a greenkeeping perspective. But it's just obviously our concern is obviously the time it takes to recover and get the course back into play. Whereas if we're expanding the bunkers or going on the existing lines, there's no sod work. So definitely that. If I can get Norman to consult with you on that, we're not yet too sure what changes the designer is looking at. But if you don't mind, if I can get Norman or myself to give you a call once we've seen the actual the plans for the new bunker designs.
Yeah, 100%, Mike. In the meantime, I would take a soil sample. Because once your soil temperature drops below 18, which it probably will through this process, we're going to be relying heavily on foliar feeds and we need to know what's in the soil. So once you're down to 12, so I think if you can stick above 18 degrees in the soil, that would be a good place to be. Once you're below 18, then you're playing with fire, and use crop cover. You know, the white, you get the big white rolls. Use the crop cover. It really does help.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, pleasure. Nice seeing you. Anybody else? You guys are welcome to just drop me a line if you would like to ask any questions about today. And we're also starting this education, which is targeted more at the golf course, at your golf course crew, like the supervisors. So my heart is trying to educate the supervisor, the irrigation tech, the spray tech, the guys that will always be on the golf course. So we're starting with level 1. I think it's going to be 14 modules. It's Rob Arnold is going to host it for me on his platform. So yeah, we're excited to start rolling that out.
Thank you, Sue. I think that's it for today. So,
Thanks so much, everyone. Appreciate your time. Have a great day.
thanks, guys. Bye.